What's the worst lie your parents ever told you? My dad said every kid in our family must donate blood twice a week because we had the disease that killed our grandfather, and this was our only chance at finding a cure. My father had been reminding me about my imminent death since the day I was born. He even read us picture books he'd written himself about slow deaths from horrific diseases. My siblings and I weren't allowed to play sports, date, or do anything else that would compromise our weakened bodies. Because all of us, he constantly reminded us, inherited the rare disease that killed his father. Without him keeping us safe, we could drop dead any moment. Talking to us about our blood disease was really the only time he interacted with us. He didn't know our birthdays or our favorite foods, just that we were dying. It was like living with the Grim Reaper. When I turned 16, Dad sat me down for what he called the talk about my new responsibilities in fighting our family curse. Son, you're old enough now to take an active role in saving your own life, he announced, while preparing the needle for my first donation. He'd set up this whole ritual where he'd draw our blood twice a week and label each bag with dates and notes about our symptoms for the research facility he claimed was analyzing everything. The whole thing felt important and scary at the same time. Within months of starting the donations, I felt like absolute garbage most of the time. I was constantly dizzy and nauseous, and I kept catching colds. I couldn't climb stairs without getting winded, and I'd fall asleep in class almost daily because I felt so drained. Dad convinced me these were symptoms of our genetic disease becoming more active in my system. Your body is telling us the condition is advancing, which means we need to increase monitoring immediately, he'd say, while adding a third weekly donation to my schedule. When my friends asked why I looked so pale and sick all the time, I'd repeat Dad's explanation about having a rare inherited condition that required careful management. By my senior year, I was having what felt like heart attacks, where my chest would tighten and I couldn't catch my breath. I became obsessed with monitoring my pulse and looking for other symptoms Dad had taught me to watch for. The fear of sudden death consumed my thoughts constantly and kept me compliant even when I started feeling too weak to function normally. But after a health class lecture made me connect the symptoms I was experiencing to blood loss, I got suspicious. I told Dad I wanted to take a break for a little while, and to my surprise, he agreed immediately. He said, "This is your disease. You can make your own decisions." I started feeling better within a week. My grades improved, I could hang out with my friends, and I didn't feel like I was fighting through a fog just to get through the day. When Dad asked me how I was feeling, I told him honestly that I was feeling better than I had in years. I thought he'd be happy, but instead, his face fell. He told me that was exactly what happened to my grandfather right before he died. He suddenly felt better after a long period of decline, and then he just dropped dead, Dad said. I just hope that's not what's happening to you. I felt my stomach drop. I felt like I was being manipulated, and that Dad was just trying to get me to start donating again. But I wasn't sure, and the consequence of being wrong was that I would die. I reluctantly started donating again, and Dad was delighted. But I also started investigating. I found the hospital where my grandpa died and contacted them to see what they could tell me about the genetic condition that killed him. The woman on the phone was completely confused. She said, "Your grandfather didn't die from a genetic condition. He was stabbed." I demanded more details, and she explained that he'd been murdered in what police suspected was a robbery gone wrong, but the case had never been solved. There was no mention of any blood disease in his medical history. I kept digging and found old police reports that shocked me to my core. Grandpa had contacted authorities about suspicious activity involving blood sales just weeks before his death. He'd been concerned about his son's involvement in illegal medical activities. I searched Dad's office and found bank records showing deposits from Premium Biologics totaling over $400,000. That's when I realized the truth. He'd been selling our blood to underground medical facilities while convincing us we were dying from a made-up disease. And when Grandpa was going to expose him, he'd silenced him for good. I recorded everything and went straight to the police with the evidence. The investigation revealed that Dad had been running an illegal blood harvesting operation using his own children as unknowing donors. They arrested him for child endangerment, medical fraud, and reopened the investigation into my grandfather's murder. My father confessed to killing Grandpa to protect his scheme and is now serving a life sentence. But even though I know I'm physically fine now, the damage he did runs deep. Any ache or pain sends me running to the doctor because I'm so used to overanalyzing any symptom. I still have panic attacks whenever I feel sick because 18 years of believing you're dying doesn't just go away overnight, but at least I get to keep my blood.